call this meeting to order. This meeting and all meetings of this council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin statute, so the citizenry may be aware of the time and the place in the agenda of this meeting. We'll ask for a roll call.
Donna Allenstein. Bruce Brunner.
Here.
Joanna Edwards.
Here.
Nick Gunderson.
Here.
Scott Rasmussen.
Here.
Jim Zandrow is absent, excused tonight.
Okay. We'll ask Donna to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would ask that we have a motion to approve the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, we need a motion then to approve our regular council meeting from December 16th and our special council meeting from December 23rd.
And so moved.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments or questions or concerns on those? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, we will move to citizens' appearance. Mr. Zaboj, library rep.
Thank you. I guess I'm smiling a little bit because I'm sharing some rather good news. December of this past year, we went up 15.1% over last year. But last year, I think there were some weather questions, and as a result, it looked much better. And I think it's going to catch up with us this year because last year's January was better than this year's January with the cold weather and that, so we may lose a little bit there. Overall, we increased 3.1% over the previous year, which in this day and age, I think is super because a lot of libraries are starting to see a decrease. We're actually seeing an increase. But the item that I guess I am the happiest with, whether that was in good picking in terms of the library staff or what, we had 27,458 items that we loaned out to other libraries. We borrowed 11,740 items to our library. That gives us a ratio of 2.34, which is some of the reports and also some of the money that we get back from owls because we're doing a good job on what is being sent out. Part of that is the books that we have that other libraries don't have. Part of it is the overall whatever we offer, but I'm just thrilled to death because when you figure a small library like this can hold its head high in terms of who we're competing with, I think it says volumes. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your support for the library. And before I sit down, I need to go off the subject just a little bit. I want to thank each and every one of you for having someone on call, because 2 weekends ago, our minister was being installed. Saturday night, I get a frantic call. Frank, we have a problem with sewer backup in the minister's house. He already had guests for the weekend there, his brother, his wife, and their little one. We have to shut the water off in order to get that cleaned up. I called the plumber, he routed it through all the way, and he said, Frank, I'm out to the street, there's a problem out in the street. So your special number was called, and the guy on call had to come and get the equipment, and we worked until about 8 o'clock that night. But it did get worked out. And I guess I'm going to ask Patrick, I think, or whoever I need to. At one time, Nick Wolf said that there was a plan on connecting that because that manhole outside of the manse is a dead-end manhole, and he thought it was going to be connected to the main street or to the street there, so it was a flow-through. And we've had problems there a couple of times, and now that we have somebody living there full-time, we could experience problems again. So maybe that's something to just keep in mind. But again, a big thank you for the response that night that we were able to get that water back on and we were able to have the installation the next day, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay.
Mr. Young he requested to reschedule.
Okay,
They said they'll take a look at February or March to come.
all right. Thank you. Any other citizens appearance?
No.
Okay, next we'll go into our committee reports, Finance Committee.
You will notice, I don't mean to jump in real quick, we kind of talked about how awkward it is to make a motion to introduce a subject. The way this is listed on your agenda, what you'll probably want to do is read off the committee's recommendation, so it starts with recommend, and then from there, we can discuss the topic, and then you can make your motion. So technically, you're reading it twice if you want to approve the recommendation, but then that way, procedurally, you're not making motions to do things that you may know already you're going to take off. So if that makes sense, that's how that's listed here. So don't, when you read it, treat it as I'm reading the topic, and then we'll discuss it. Okay? And we're on finance. Scott, do you have it up?
He's getting it up.
Okay.
Lower and slower neck. First item for consideration is we recommend proceeding with the Associated Appraisal Consultants on a full reevaluation process for the City of Weyauwega to commence in 2015.
I will jump in quick. This project is obviously not going to happen until 2015. In our purchasing policies, the recommendation is to bid out or quote out legal services, engineering, garbage, assessment as part of that. We're looking at, we've already done insurance, that's another one. We're looking at following that policy this spring. The intent of the committee was to make it on the record that the city would look to do a full revaluation in 2015 because the state had started their non-compliance process. They send a letter in the first year that you're outside of within 10% on your assessed value and full value. Next year is when we would look to do this, but I would imagine that we will bid this out. The reason Associated Appraisal is on there is because that's who our current assessor is. So you do not need to take a motion here. I think at the committee level we talked about it enough. We're on the agreement that we'll do this next year. So if the state would find us to still be non-compliant, they'll at least have some paper records that we're looking to do this. So you technically don't have to take any action on this tonight. But if you'd like to table it, it's up to you. We've got a recommendation hanging out there. If there's a way you want to circle it around and say, well, we'll come back to this.
I would like to table it because there could be confusion. It's a
Right.
dollar amount that's required to be bid, and
Mhm.
so we would have confusion about it as to
Yep.
who's actually assigned to the project if we make a motion.
Yep. So if you'd like to make a motion to table it,
Oh, I move we table the recommendation for the evaluation.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made to table the recommendation procedure for the Associated Appraisal Consultant. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
On behalf of the Finance Committee, I'd like to recommend approval of Cedar Corp Addendum 2-2 for the City Hall project.
the initial authorization to do the engineering and design work for the City Hall project projected public meetings in September. Obviously, here we are in January. We have them scheduled. This would extend out their services through the public information meetings into February.
I'll make a motion to approve City Corporation Addendum 2-2 for City Hall project.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded.
Who seconded?
Rasmussen. Any other questions or comments or concerns? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And lastly, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I would like to recommend approval of checks number 30194 through 30334, totaling $141,478.20, and the monthly financial statements.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
No, there was a motion.
Oh, you read it.
Yeah,
Yeah, then you need to
recommendation.
make the motion then. Yep.
Any questions on that? Okay, then I'd like to make a motion at this point for the approval of checks number 30194 through 30334, totaling $141,478.20, and the monthly financial statement.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Rasmussen, seconded by Allenstein. Any other questions or comments on the financial and the check report? Ask for a roll call.
Allenstein,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Gunderson.
Aye.
Carried with 5 ayes.
Anything else, Scott?
No, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on next to Public Works Committee.
All right, well, the Public Works Committee would like to recommend adding proposed sidewalks on Lincoln Street and Alfred Street to the City of Weyauwega Sidewalk Master Plan as part of the County Highway F Reconstruction project.
The reason to add these in, obviously this project is going to take place this summer. Sidewalks that are installed and that are outlined in the master plan are paid for by the city. In this case, the county is covering roughly half of this project. Usually if they're not in the master plan and a resident would request the sidewalk, they would then have to pay a portion or all of it. With this project, it's proposed that the sidewalk is going in. The property owners themselves weren't necessarily asked, would you like this or not? And so with that being said, it doesn't make the most sense to then not ask them and then bill them for it. So that would be the motion. The recommendation is to add them to the master plan.
I felt like all of our other sidewalks lead the kids to school. That was the whole idea behind master plan. And that's what this is, to get the kids from the trailer park to the school. So to me, it only made sense to include it.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the intersection they cross is the one with the stop sign, not halfway down in
Right.
front of the Catholic church there, because there will be more caution at that corner than if they went around the corner and then across the street, so.
We need a motion for
Well,
that.
I'd like to make a motion adding the proposed sidewalks on Lincoln Street, East Alfred Street to the City of Weyauwega Sidewalk Master Plan as part of the County Highway F Reconstruction project.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
All right. The Public Works Committee would like to recommend approval of Public Works and Water and Sewer Utility sections of the CIP.
In your packet, it's in Sideways. There is a separate document in your Google Drive where they're easier to read. Basically, this is an update for our CIP. It's a 10-year plan. The idea is in the summer of 2015, we're going to take a deeper look into what's all in this plan for the next 10 years, and also look back 5, 6, 7 years to see what had been put in there and what was actually completed, and if there were things that were taken out or just not completed, we'll take a look at why. So that is the goal. That would be for the next CIP. The one before you is, I feel, sufficient for this year.
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of the Public Works and Water and City Sewer Utility sections of the CIP.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments or concerns on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The Public Works Committee would like to recommend approval of the proposal by Alpha Terra for the 2014 Safety Program Services.
This is for a continuation for 2014. The committee had discussed quoting this out going into next year. The one thing that we'll have to look into is this covers two definite visits. The first visit is actually a joint training that we hold with the City of Weyauwega, where all of our guys get all of their annual refresher training. There's bloodborne pathogens, those types of things, confined space. We will be talking with City of Weyauwega on how they procure their services there, but the idea would be recommend approval for this program for this year, and then work on quoting it out for 2015.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposal by Alpha Terra for the 2014 Safety Program Services.
I will second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Alpha Terra 2014 safety program. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And finally, the Public Works Committee would like to recommend approval of the Community Wayfinding Plan.
This is to approve the signs and the locations for that directional signage that we had talked about, and it sounds like had been talked about for a number of years. Because we would put signs directing people to the City Hall, to the library, and to the park, we would be putting it on West Main and North Mill, which are state roads. The state requires that you ask permission to be able to do that, and then that way they restrict it to 3 locations, which we have. It's actually City Hall and police, so we kind of got 4 into 3. They wanted to make sure that the city understands that this is a one-time request, so they don't want in 2, 3, 4 years you come back and say, well, now we want more signs. I feel like this adequately addresses all of the intersections where we would want to direct people to those 3 locations. And basically they just want to see a map and that you work with the state to get this accomplished, and that you don't just put up billboards off of state roads. So there will be a letter that acknowledges that, yes, the city kept it to 3 locations. Yes, the city does not have any other plans for more signage, basically acknowledging all of their requirements. In your packet, you have a list of each of the signs, what they'll look like, where they'll be, and then a quick sketch of a map, too, of the city. So that's what you're approving with the wayfinding plan. It's to send it to the state for approval. Hopefully this spring, then, we could get those signs ordered and installed once we get our approval.
Okay, I will make the motion to recommend the approval of the Community Wayfinding Plan.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the community wayfind plan. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay. Next, we'll move on to police, fire, and ambulance. Bruce?
No action for council.
Next, we'll move on to public health, relief, ordinance committee.
No action for council.
Okay, thank you. Recreation committee.
Okay, the next item is approval of a restroom shelter building plan and authorization to bid out the work to include a longer shelter length as an alternate option.
This is for the new restroom, which last year began as a restroom/storage building or garage. The committee over the fall had massaged this plan into, instead of a restroom with a garage right at the entrance to the park, they decided that potentially a new shelter with some type of a serving counter or serving shelf would be more appealing at the entrance to the park. The plans were put together, they're in your packet. For a brand new restroom, we would tear down the old white one that's standing there now. We would bid local, a lot of that demolition and excavation work there, but the recommendation is to approve the restroom and shelter plan, bid out the work, hopefully with the idea of getting this completed by Memorial Day. And when I talked to Thad today, he had mentioned that if you approve this tonight, they feel like they could bid this out for potential approval at the next council meeting. And then that may allow for 2 to 3 month window where they think they can get it all done by Memorial Day, or at least the structure. The alternate that's listed in here is to give you an option, because the shelter is larger than what the garage was going to be. They recommend that you bid out the base project as a smaller shelter, and that as an alternate you add on another 8-foot section of shelter. And so that way you can see, okay, with the base bid with, I believe, a 24-foot shelter, how much does that cost? And if you wanted to make it a 32-foot shelter, what is the cost difference there? If you don't have the alternate, you're not able to identify that difference. So that's the recommendation, to approve that tonight, get the bid work out for a February approval, and then hopefully get this completed by Memorial Day.
Any other discussion? Then I make a motion that we approve the restroom shelter building plan and bid out the work to include the longer shelter length as an alternate option.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the restroom shelter building plans. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Yeah, and the only other item is recommend approval of the leisure section of the CIP for the 2014-23 span.
Same deal as the Public Works Utility section. Take a real deep view this summer, so.
So considering next year, this year, the approval is currently just for the park shelter. I'll make a motion that we approve the CIP for recreation for 2014 to 2023.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
No further action.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission had no action. New business. Need a motion to approve operator's license for Stephanie Pingel.
The topic is to review the application. The recommendation from the police department / police chief is to deny the license based on a review of the application and the background.
So we make a motion to deny it then?
Yes.
Make a motion to deny the license.
I'll second.
7th through 9th, 2014.
I'll make the motion to recommend the approval of temporary Class B realtor's license, retailer's license for fire on ice for February 7th through 9th of 14.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have resolution number 554, designating authority representatives to file application for financial assistance from the State of Wisconsin Environmental Improvement Fund.
This is for, it's a DNR form, and when we talked about the clean water loan funding, the mayor has historically signed for the applications to make you eligible for funding in case we would do the treatment project this year. The problem is, it's two-phase, I guess. State law designates the mayor as the point of contact to sign these types of resolutions or agreements. Except the city has had the mayor do it, and the DNR has required a resolution that identifies the mayor, which is kind of conflicting, I guess, or it's duplication, I think. We could not find a copy of the resolution. The DNR said it's not a problem at all. It's just that they would like to have an approved resolution designating the mayor. It's a procedural resolution as part of that project.
I move that we approve resolution 554 designating the authorized representative for mayor to file applications for financial assistance from the State of Wisconsin Environmental Improvement Fund.
You can read it, right?
Wouldn't that be the mayor?
Oh, I thought you could read the whole thing.
I did.
Oh, the
Oh,
month we agreed.
and wait, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. And that's exactly what I wanted to make the motion.
Okay, and then we need a second.
I will second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? I'm going to ask for a roll call.
Gunderson,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Allenstein,
Aye.
Brunner.
Aye.
Carried with 5 ayes.
Next we have, this is what I was going to talk about, but discussion on citizens committee appointments. Pat and I have been trying to work on a form, get something started that we can use for that. Some questions have come up that we have talked about. And of course, one of them, I know a couple of you people have called me and gave me, names and stuff, and I think we just need to have them, once we get the form, we need to have the form filled out, because one of the thing is like, I don't know, Donna, like with your rec committee, we have 2 appointments from youth, and I don't think they've attended any meetings. And so we need to come up with something, I guess that, and I guess as a council or a committee, they can hold them, if they don't attend after a while, we can take them off. So we need to set, I think, some rules or bases on that. But,
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off. We do actually, in your ordinance for citizen members that are on committees, you do have it spelled out that if they don't attend 2/3 of your meetings, that the council could review whether to replace them with someone who potentially could make it more often. It's not that they don't want to be there, maybe schedules conflict. Looking at our list of committees, I have a list of all of the people that are expiring in April. We also have polls from people that have had either moved out of town, are not interested, maybe retiring. The problem we've had is I think on the front end, potentially you would have people that really wanted to get involved, and so then they could potentially get posted to 2 committees. And so that way you had one body, one person that filled two holes. The problem is, as those people start coming off, you don't have, now you've got two holes for one person that left. And as I'm looking through the list, I thought there was maybe one person with 3. There's another individual that's on 4 committees. And that's great because, you know, they like to get involved.
That's not
It's not so great because 2 of the committees haven't met maybe in 4 or 5 years. So one is the ethics committee. Well, that's very good that it's not meeting, obviously. But there's the tree committee, police commission. We started cranking that up again. The library board has been, you know, pretty good, but they've got a couple people expiring in April. The board of appeals is the main one that we've been short for the last few months. We need 3 people there, and there's also 2 positions that are expiring in April. So in a way, you need 4 or 5 people. Hopefully, you get them on there because that's a fairly important function, that you don't just get people that just fill the spot. You'd like them to have some type of training. Board of review is the same. We're short 1 person there. They meet at least once every year. The problem is you have a lot of the same names on here. And as you said, for me, and for whoever's trying to fill the holes, that's very good because it makes it a little bit easier for you on the front end. But, you know, in the scope of things is that when they leave, obviously now you have problems like we have now. So the question is, do we, as we put out these applications, we didn't put it in the last water bill because we put the city hall flyer in there. We could put it in the next water bill. For sure, there will be a review of appointees in April because every April that recycles there. We could probably take a look here. Potentially, we could go right down the list of all the people that are expiring and all the people that aren't, and just say, not so much check their attendance, but just say, hey, look, we're struggling to get enough people to fill. How does your schedule look? You know, can we get someone else on here that maybe is more apt to be able to make meetings? You probably have a good window to do that for March and April. The problem is with the Board of Appeals, we have a couple issues with zoning and setback for garages. We're working through them at the Ordinance Committee. We'll have a meeting this next month. I think that's the review of the ordinance is satisfying the people for now. But if tomorrow they came in and wanted to request a variance, technically we have about a 15-day window to hold that meeting, and you'd have to go find 3 people. You'd have to get a council meeting scrambled together, get them appointed, get them up to speed on the committee, get them up to speed on the issues, and then hold that public hearing. And hopefully we don't, you know, get forced to do that. But that's sort of the reality we're looking at with the Zoning Board of Appeals, at least, that every day you're only 15 days out from having to have a meeting. And we've been okay so far, but I don't know if we can make it till April on that one. So potentially whatever you would plan on doing to refresh the list, maybe you make an exception for the Board of Appeals and we try to get people involved or on board sooner. I'm not saying tonight, but sooner. That's all I've got.
How close are you to finishing this form?
We have, the key was to get a list of all the committees and get the description of what they do. Now we have that. We have some examples. Donna, you had given some examples of forms. That's, to my knowledge, that's what we're at.
So you don't actually have, you haven't drawn up the form yet. That's a fairly quick thing.
When are you 2 meeting next to do this? I guess that would be my what's next stuff. Have you scheduled something? I mean, if we need to break it down that much, we do. But, I mean, we shouldn't have to reinvent any wheels here.
We can get it done this week. I think the big thing is the Board of Appeals will take a look at all the information is there, and I've got it all right now. It's just
So I guess
putting it on paper and sending it out, probably with the utility bills there.
But this, what I think, Mike, is at stake here is future leadership for people in the city. And this could be the most important thing you get done in your term as mayor. Because if you could, and I don't know quite how you'd go about it, if you could approach everybody who's on that list and give them a list of all the committees in the city and ask them if they would be willing to be reshuffled among committees or replaced, so that of all the willing people you get from the survey, you can align a commission or board with people who are experienced alongside other new volunteers, and you can have everybody on only one committee. You'll have a much larger slate of leaders, and you'll have the ability to have people who have experience get new people up to speed. And that's, I think, what we're all looking for. So I would ask that all the people on that list, maybe even if you ask anyone when you're sending them the survey, if you would check all the committees that you would at all be interested in and prioritize them on a scale, like number 1, 2, 3, 4, this is your preference, so that you can evaluate what they're willing to serve on and match them into slots based on experience and choose people with that in mind. And maybe, those would be people who already don't quite have a term that's expiring, but would still be willing to be realigned to another committee. I would love to see that kind of thing happen because of that survey.
So explain who fills out the form or who hands out the form for applicants for these committees that desire to get involved. Is it something that Patrick and the mayor hand out? Is it something that we as council members can hand out to interested parties for their
They
interest?
go off the water bill, and plus they can be at City Hall, so that they can come in and get one.
They can just go right there, right, or they can just go to City Hall and get one filled out and leave it right there at the.
But for the people who are already serving, maybe a cover letter and a separate survey mailed to them with an explanation that this is the reason we're asking people to be willing to be realigned. We want to get new people involved. We want to get a better balance between newly volunteering people and people with experience. And, what are your wishes? What are your priorities?
And people don't even probably realize that there are that many.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Maybe they served on one because they think that's their only
The
chance
only
to
one
serve
they
the
do.
city.
That was something we were looking at for the new website anyway, was putting a form online, listing everything, so they could see it and look at it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'll just make a quick comment. If you want to do the application form, that's fine. And if we want to wait to put it in the utility bill, it's not going to go out until mid-February. I hope that the feeling out there is not that we're sitting on this for whatever reason. I think I've been trying to get appointments through to these committees since last fall. And I'm not saying shame on anybody, shame on me or anything like that, but we've had appointments kind of in and out for whatever reason. They just didn't get approved, or maybe they did get approved and then somebody resigned. I just hope in the record of the meeting that it's not, I'm sitting on this because I don't care to have anyone,
Well,
No, well,
seeing as
And
how
I
we
think-
need this,
and yeah,
I would say finish your form, get something in the paper, not wait for the bills.
Yeah.
You can still include them in the bills
Mhm.
with the thing, but we could get the forms done beforehand,
Yeah.
have them done at City Hall, put it in the paper that if anybody's interested, they can come fill out an application. And if we get enough, we can hold a special council to appoint, because it wouldn't take very long to come in and appoint the Board of Appeals and Board of Reviews and get it done. Because we're gonna need that Board of Appeals sooner than later, so.
Yeah.
I think that's the point I want to make is the form sounds really good. You don't need the form though to do this. I think
No, but
You know.
you should take minutes to, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to sit down and type out a form.
Correct.
Then make copies of it, have it sitting at City Hall. That way you can get a name, address, everything.
Yep.
Well, what goes hand in hand with that, Nick, in my opinion, is a description of the responsibilities of being on that committee and what it all entails as well.
Right, well, they already said they have that done, so,
So that
it
would have to
basically
go
is-
with it.
right, it's basically just the form that we're waiting on. And I'm saying we shouldn't wait till the
I
utility
agree,
bill.
because if we make it too complicated for citizens, they're not gonna wanna,
Right.
let's not roadblock people who are willing.
Yeah. I think the idea is we have a need and we'll address it, so.
Right.
Everybody will address it. Okay.
But at a minimum for next month's meeting, then Mike, you will choose a name for Board of Appeals. I mean, I think we have to have that.
We need to
name.
have something in the records
At
to
least
hold us
that name.
accountable.
Three, you
I was
need
gonna say,
three,
Yeah.
because we need one to fill out the board and then 2 alternates too,
Right.
so. Yeah. All right,
You find two, is that what you said?
on Board of Appeals,
Yeah.
for right now, we have 4 that are on there, that's good. We need 1 to replace Roger Perry as a permanent regular member, and then we need 2 alternates, because you always have to have 5 people in attendance at these Board of Appeals meetings. If you don't have 5, you can't hold a meeting. So they have 2 alternates just in case. Because of the time limits when somebody applies, it has to be held so quick. And that committee has 5 people in attendance, 4 of them need to vote to grant a variance. So it's not just 3, you need 4 out of the 5 to do that.
My neighbor's report, that's basically what I was gonna talk about, was the committee that we were working on that. And I have to also state that, I believe that the streets are, for the winter, are probably the best I've seen in quite a while.
I agree.
They're not- they're not,
We've beaten New London every day, we've been there since the
they're
summer.
not lumpy, and I've actually had people with compliments.
Good.
So I'll pass that on to the guys.
That's what
And we'll move on to the administrator's report.
I'll keep mine pretty quick. I appreciate the comments on the snow removal. I have also had comments that they feel like it's the worst it's ever been too. So you never get too high and you never get too low. It's somewhere in between is probably where we're at. But yeah, I think we're doing fairly well. Part of that is we have the 4th full-time guy. The other part is we just received the John Deere tractor, and we received it the day before we got the 8 to 9 inches of snow, so everyone got enough time to practice in the tractor. We have that now every day, so we have a guy who's dedicated to clearing the streets, clearing out the parking spots. We'll get better every day with that, so that's encouraging there. I really don't have anything other than that going on. Everything's chugging along. We finished the year for 2013, and the auditors will be coming in first week in March. And then obviously with the City Hall meetings, I don't know if we were going to highlight that again later, but we have the open houses next Thursday, January 30th, 6 to 7 p.m., Friday the 31st, 4 to 5 p.m., and Tuesday, February 4th, noon to 1. Each one of those, 15 minutes in, we'll have Cedar Corp give a short presentation. We'll also film that the first day at City Hall. We'll have these meetings, and then we'll hopefully put that online, then the quick video report. That's all I have. I'll keep it brief.
Okay. I didn't want to bring up the bad points of the snow, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a battle every day. It's
Right. Why do they have to take the snow from the fire hydrant and put it over next to my yard? Can't they put it somewhere else?
Yeah. Yep. We'll get through it. It's winter.
All right. Next, we'll be setting meetings for the calendar for February.
Okay, council is your normal third Monday, February 17th, 6:30 p.m. Finance is the first Monday, February 3rd, 5:30.
Sounds good.
Public Works is a change. It's still the second Monday, February 10th, but it is now at 11 o'clock in the morning.
I'm on second shift that week.
I love
That lets everybody during the day come to meetings.
He's just trying to please everyone.
I learned that from the county.
I was just gonna say,
Sorry, left.
Everybody left.
Gotta go to bed at the meeting and.
Yeah.
Going to the county board or what?
Do we need a police committee meeting?
Last month, the council had suggested holding a joint police commission police
Yes.
committee meeting to discuss hiring, so we should get that. And then we would also need an ordinance committee meeting too.
Yeah.
So between those two, I mean,
I can remind you, can we do ordinance this week yet? Because Bob's leaving.
I would,
we do not have to. I think what we'll do is we'll get the building inspector to weigh in. He's going down to Florida, and then,
For 2 months.
he's going to Florida, I think, for a week, and then Southwest, maybe Arizona, then for 2 months. But he had said that he's willing to weigh in, maybe have a meeting with Johanna, the mayor, the council president, on the setback issue.
yeah,
So-
sooner rather than later, I guess, if that's okay. Tim's leaving again for 6 months, so I'm trying to get front-loaded stuff done. I mean, I don't know if we can do something as quick as this week, before he leaves. When is he leaving, Becky?
Well, I think he's actually gone right now
Oh,
in
is he
Florida,
already
and
gone?
he's coming back Friday.
Oh, okay.
And then he's leaving again Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, because he said he would be in the office on the 27th to check any final stuff, any building permits we have.
Well,
But really, we could hook up with him on the phone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I stated at the
Skype him
meeting
in
what
or
his opinion
something.
was. He just wanted to clarify
oh, okay,
his
all right,
opinion,
that's
so
fine,
nothing's changed.
Yeah,
It's
so
just
whatever
to confirm.
works with your schedule then.
that's fine.
Okay, I have a question about recreation, and if we're having bids available to be approved for the bid, even the bid opening, could we do that in our before the council on the 17th? Just have finance at 5:30 and move right into the council?
Rec, you mean, that's right
I mean,
there?
rec, yeah, rec at 5:30, because that would give Thad the full period to get bids in and,
On the 17th, you're talking
yeah,
about,
just
okay.
right before council, because then you wouldn't have to come to 2 meetings.
Yeah, that's good, I like that.
5:30.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't care, can we do the 5th for ordinance, are we gonna be ready by then?
We're ready. I think all you wanted to do was weigh in with the building inspector.
Okay,
Otherwise, all the info is gathered together. It's just a matter of finding a convenient time.
yeah, Wednesday nights are probably,
That should be fine. It's the day that all the city hall meetings are done, then those days prior there, so. Wednesday the 5th should be fine.
yeah, let's do that.
At what time?
Let's do 6 PM, is that okay?
Okay,
Please.
Oh, did we,
we're gonna, I
Okay,
think we
it's-
need to contact commission and see when everybody's available for the commission.
We could do that, but if you wanted to set the police committee maybe, then that way you kind of throw out a target and say, here you go. And that will,
Okay.
that way we get it on the calendar,
right,
and you can't do anything but address it if you can't make that, if that doesn't work, then we have to sit down and talk about it. So.
okay.
So what do you think, Bruce, for Bruce?
Anytime,
Like a Monday, the 10th?
The 10th is public works.
But that's during the
Oh,
day.
you're right.
That's during the
Tuesday.
day.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll be gone.
Are you on it?
You'll be gone?
No.
We have tried to do the first Tuesday of the month, which would have been February 4th. Jerry, what's that like for you?
20.
Yeah,
Tuesday?
whatever works for them.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Tuesday, the 4th.
At what time? 6?
Do you guys,
Works for me. Works for Chief. 6, that sounds good.
Jerry, 6?
6.
Okay.
Alright, make a motion to adjourn, or go into closed session.